You may be familiar with today's guest, Bryan Braddy, for a few different reasons. Perhaps you heard the extended length pit stop last month where Bryan interviewed me, but you probably know him from his art, which is under the label Bad Art Nice Watch. If you happen to be at the grand opening of the new IWC boutique on Madison Avenue, perhaps you met Bryan there as he painted live. Regardless, you will quickly learn that Bryan is one of the nicest guys in and around the watch world. He and I chat about his watch collection, his art, which sort of fell into his lap, his days snowboarding in college, and his love of the game of golf. This one was a long time coming, and I'm happy to share it with you, so please enjoy my conversation with Bryan Braddy. I'm your host, Wesley Smith, and you're listening to the Standard Age Podcast. Welcome to the show. Let's talk about the lake.
Okay, let's do it.
What lake is it?
Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia. So
Yeah.
It's about 3 hours north of here, I want to say. 2.5.
Now, is that the lake where they filmed Dirty Dancing?
No, but it is the lake where they filmed What About Bob?
Okay. I was like, there's a movie that was famous. Or actually, Virginia might possess the other lake as well. I don't
It might,
know.
yeah.
Now, is this a lake house you guys own? Or do they get a hotel or rent? Or what's the story?
It's my in-laws. They've got a place over by Mariner's Landing, if anyone is familiar with that area. It's down in the Huddleston area. But it's a really lovely lake. They have been going since like the 90s, and ever since I've started dating my now wife,
Yeah.
I've been joining them. So it's about 15 years. It's a beautiful lake.
Yeah,
We
I love
enjoy
lake
it.
life. Yeah, my parents used to live on a lake. Now they don't. But yeah, I miss it, honestly. Oh, and by the way, before we get further into the conversation, I did want to thank you again for interviewing me for the show, for the podcast, the pit stop, the extended version, I guess we should say. So thank you yet again for doing that. That was super fun.
It was my pleasure. It was a blast. I enjoyed getting to turn the tables on you.
Yeah, and I think you and I discussed maybe not really at length, in short, to possibly doing it again, maybe 6 months from now or something like that. I think it would be cool to kind of do it, biannually or something. I don't know,
Absolutely.
something to think about.
We left a lot of topics off the table. We just forgot about them, or didn't. We kind of ran out of time. So there's a lot more to uncover of the Wesley story here.
Right. For sure. And it's always evolving. I feel like it's never a dull moment here. This was a long time coming too, so I'm happy to have you on the show. What exactly, and I might even be mispronouncing this, what is a lino cut print?
Oh, okay, yes. No, you got it right. So lino cut is a art form where you basically take linoleum. It's like woodblock cutting, but you take linoleum, so it's a little softer, and you are able to carve away what you do not want printed, and then you will ink up your lino, and then you could either use a press or you can do a hand print. So a lot of times what you'll see is like someone will have a jig or a template. You're able to lay the paper down gently on top of that and apply even pressure, whether that's through like the back of a spoon or a bone folder or a burnisher, which would be a baron, which would be just kind of like a flat disc that you can rub across the top. But you're basically just using your carved thing to make a print of something, and you can also stack them. So sometimes people will do multiple. It could be a single cut where you just do one color, or you could have multiple pieces of lino. This one is for blue, this one's for red, this is for green, this is for black, whatever, and you could stack them. So it's kind of like a screen print, like if you're thinking of t-shirts, except for you're carving it all by hand and you're inking it up by hand and printing it by hand.
It sounds almost like a stamp.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Like you would have like a regular stamp to, put your return address or something on an envelope.
Exactly, you got it.
Got it. Interesting. Are you from Raleigh or North Carolina originally?
I have lived here. Short answer is kind of yes. I was born in Southern California. My mom and her side of the family is from Southern California. My dad's side is from North Carolina. He was in the Navy. When he got finished, he ended up in San Diego. They met and then they moved back to North Carolina in '92. So I was only like 5 at the time.
Got it.
So I've lived here basically my whole life.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Where'd you go to high school?
Cardinal Gibbons.
Oh, you went to Gibbons. Okay.
I did. Yep.
So, which is a Catholic school, right?
It is. Yep.
Was that something you chose to do, or was that something you were told to do?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I would say mostly I kind of chose it. So I had an interesting educational progression. So we've lived in my parents still live in the same house that we moved to in '92.
Wow,
But
cool.
I was initially districted for Bockham Elementary, and I was only there for 1 year before it switched to another school. And there was even talk of it potentially being redistricted again because Cary was growing very fast at the time. And my parents were like, we want you to be in the same place the whole time. Okay. So they ended up sending me to a magnet school in downtown Raleigh.
Washington?
No, Fuller, actually.
I
Yep.
went to Washington. That's
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
My friend across the street went to Washington.
That's funny.
So anyway, we went to Fuller for the rest of my elementary. And then Davis Drive was the middle school that I was districted for. Spent all 3 years there. And then high school, Green Hope was just getting started. And so we were districted for Green Hope, but there was talk of us potentially being rezoned for Cary High. And my parents were like, we saw what this looks like. We're not doing that again of, you switching schools midway. And so they said one of the options is, we could look at Cardinal Gibbons. I was very fortunate that I was able to go, and I had a great time. I think it was probably the best fit for me.
Cool. Did you look at Ravenscroft?
Not really, just because it's a little further away.
Got it.
Gibbons was like probably less than 15 minutes from my house. So it worked out. I had a couple friends who were also going there. Made a lot of great friends. It didn't hurt, I'm born and raised Catholic too, so it also kind of worked from that perspective.
Right. How much Catholicism was there between the bells, so to speak?
Oh, definitely quite a bit. Trying to think. We had a theology class every single year. I can't remember what our class schedule looked like, but I mean, obviously, we're taking theology a couple times a week, and then obviously you're observing any of the religious holidays and the saints and all that kind of stuff. There's a chapel on site, as
Sure.
well as the larger school community would be doing something through the theater or in the gymnasium or something. So it was kind of nice that instead of having to go to Ash Wednesday with my parents after school, everything is like I already got my ashes during school hours or whatever it was. So it kind of killed like two birds, one stone a little bit, where
Right.
you didn't feel like you had to double dip, didn't have to do CCD or any of like the religious studies after class that any of my friends who are Catholic who didn't go to Catholic school did.
Right. Very efficient time-wise.
Exactly.
So here's what's interesting that just popped into my brain is did going to Catholic school, well, I guess maybe let me rephrase the question. Was your interest in art, did it predate Catholic school or after? Because, I mean, if you think about church, right, and you think about the Vatican, for example,
Yes.
there's so much art inside of churches, and there's so much art in the Vatican.
Yes.
So was your artistic interest at all based within that or because of it, or was it all just completely unrelated?
I would say that it started before that. I want to say I have always had an interest in art and creative things. Whether that was Legos or Lincoln Logs or just drawing doodles my own self, just whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted to say it started before I was even in school, but it was initially fostered in elementary school. Probably kindergarten through fourth grade. I had really good art teachers who were encouraging enough. Obviously, you're talking to an elementary kid. They're not really super into, getting deep into art. But I really enjoyed it. I had quite a passion for it. So much that my parents wanted to send me to like art camps and stuff. And I think it was either my fourth or fifth grade year, the art teacher switched. And it just was not the same. Whether I can't remember if they were, I mean, I'm sure they were dealing with kids. So it wasn't like they were trying to stifle any flames or anything like that. But I just vividly remember not enjoying art like I used to. Whether it was the feedback that I was getting or the type of art that we were creating, whatever it was, something switched, and I just was kind of out of it at that point. So it was no longer being fostered from a school perspective. I was still kind of doodling and doing my own stuff on the side, but it was never really on the forefront, if that makes sense.
You didn't look forward to fourth period class or whatever the art class was.
Exactly. Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
was it, what else was going on in your life then? Like, did you pick up a sport instead, or like, was there anything
for
that
sure.
maybe could have distracted you from wanting to do art because you had baseball practice or something?
Sports was obviously very big. Played soccer, the whole time growing up. That's obviously, if you're from North Carolina, if you're from the the Raleigh-Cary area, Castle was a big thing that dominated the 90s.
Totally.
So yeah, played a lot of soccer on several teams with friends. Video games, obviously, kind of as we started to get older, the Super NES, N64, everyone was playing, GoldenEye together.
Okay,
those
GoldenEye.
days.
Yep.
So that obviously was a big thing as well. But I mean, obviously, one of the big things too was just my friend group. Growing up, I had a solid group of probably 4 guys, and we did everything together. A lot of street hockey,
Cool.
a lot of jamming out to Mighty Ducks 2 soundtrack on a boombox with our rollerblades on, slapping some balls around. So it was
Nice.
fun.
That's cool. So, GoldenEye, the game, did that get you into 007, or did you already know about 007 prior to the video game?
I think GoldenEye probably introduced me to the game.
Yeah.
Also, probably from a timing perspective, I don't think I was really old enough to watch
Yeah.
Bond movies prior to that game. And then once GoldenEye came out, that kind of introduced Bond to my whole friend group. So much though that when No Time to Die came out, our parents, our dads especially, were like, okay, we feel comfortable taking them to go watch this.
Cool.
So yeah, that was GoldenEye was really the introduction to Bond. And then No Time to Die, I think, was the first one that we went to go see in theaters. So I'm a Brosnan Bond kind of guy.
Sure.
Appreciate all the other ones, but Brosnan was the
That's
one that did it for me.
your
Yeah,
Bond. Yeah.
that's my Bond.
Is Bond responsible for getting watches into your life then too, or is that also something that came much later?
That actually is something that came really, really early. I blame my parents and my grandmother for that. Actually, let me see. This is going to make a horrible podcast, but let me take a photo down real fast.
No, that's cool. You use the term blame. Is that because you consider it a disease, or you use the?
Oh, it's 100%, 100% a disease. It is, Wes. So I don't know if you can. Let me see if I can block this.
Oh, amazing!
So,
Yeah, red strap. You are. What are you there? 3 years old?
Not even. Probably 18 months.
Oh, okay.
This is my grandmother. She took me. My parents were in Hawaii, and I was staying with my grandmother, and she took me to Sears, and we did a photo shoot. And I am wearing, typical 80s outfit with my little ABC polo on, but I stole my mom's Mickey Mouse watch. I would not let her have it back. And so we have several pictures of me and my grandmother with me wearing this watch, but that's when it started.
So that was your mom's watch.
That was my mom's watch. She let me wear it. And then I probably didn't really wear a watch. I was just fascinated with them. But the first watch that I can vividly remember, one of those buddies that I lived with, or that I grew up with in the neighborhood, his dad worked for telecommunications company Nortel, and they moved from Cary to Hong Kong.
Yep.
And while they were over there, they came back to visit us at Christmas time, and they brought us all like Nike watches. Cool. And I don't know if they're real or they were counterfeit because it's from Hong Kong, but I just vividly remember it was the coolest watch. It was a digital watch with a color changing dial, like a mood ring kind of dial.
Wow.
That would change colors with your body temperature, but it had all of the country offsets, like the GMT offsets on the band. And I just remember being so fascinated with like the idea of, I can see that in New York it's +6, but if it's, LA it's plus, whatever. And so it was really kind of cool. I remember it kind of sparking like a travel thought in my brain, that watch. But that one, and then a Fossil Blue that my grandmother got me in middle school, which was I had to have in the late 90s. And yeah, so I've had a watch on my wrist for the better part of my life, probably since I was 7+.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Likewise. Can you talk about your day job at all, or no?
Sure, yeah. So I'm actually a technical trainer, is my day job. So I head up our training department. I do software support. So someone buys the software that we support, they contract us. I'll develop the training materials with my team, and then whether I'm doing it remotely via Zoom or I'm standing up in front of a classroom, usually taking people through it and training them how to use it.
Okay, so you're training the people who purchased it. You're not training people within your own company.
Correct. Yeah. So I'm training third-party clients.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Now, what got you into that kind of gig? Like, have you been like a software type of background at all?
No, I was actually a hospitality and tourism management major in college. I thought I wanted to work at a yacht club.
Sick.
Actually, I did my internship at the San Diego Yacht Club. I enjoyed my time, but I was very fortunate that the manager at the time was a member. It was like a interim GM kind of thing. They had let the previous manager go. A member stepped up to be the interim GM, and I did my internship during his tenure. And so I would do like day job, check out all the departments during the day, but at nighttime he would invite me to go sailing on his yacht or join him in the dining room for dinner. So I quickly realized like I would rather be a member at a club like this than work at a club like this. So I just got to figure out how to make that money. But that kind of turned me off. I was like, I don't want to be working holidays. I don't want to be, I'd like to see my family, kind of have a little bit more of a set regular schedule, not be working nights, that kind of stuff. So anyway, when I graduated, it was kind of like the height of the financial crisis, the year, 2008, 2010.
Sure.
So, put a lot of resumes out. Nothing was really falling, but I had a friend who was also working at this company, and she said, "Hey, have you found a job yet?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." She said, "Would you want me to put your resume in?" And I said, "Yes, please." I interviewed and got the job, and I've actually been there for almost 14 years now. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, little known fact, you and I actually connected through a DM you sent me saying, "Hey Wesley, I'm familiar with your brand. I work with your cousin." And I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "Who is this guy? And
Yeah.
how does he know me?" That sort of thing. It was kind of funny. So wow, 14 years. Congrats, man. That's great.
Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate it.
I have no idea how long Liz has been there. I'm not sure. But
She's been there a long time too. I think she's been there since 2014, so probably coming up on 10 years.
oh wow.
Yeah.
So you're wearing an Appalachian State logo, I think.
I am.
Okay, so were
Yeah.
you a mountaineer?
Oh, absolutely.
So how did Boone treat you?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. When I graduated high school, my parents were kind enough. They said, "Hey, we'll support you. We'll help you with college so long as you stay in state. We're not paying out-of-state tuition."
Sure, sure.
I said, "Okay." So I can choose anywhere from Asheville all the way to Wilmington.
Yep.
And I interviewed, or I guess I toured a couple campuses. I went and looked at UNCW. I wanted to get as far away from Raleigh as possible. I had a great time. This is not trying to say anything about my parents. I just wanted to experience more.
I think that's healthy.
Yeah. And so I looked at Wilmington, and I looked at Boone, looked at App, looked at UNC, looked at State, looked at ECU, applied to all of them. Didn't get into all of them, but I realized, okay, I'm going to be in school from September through May. I'd rather be snowboarding than freezing at the beach. So let's try that.
Right. Nice. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So were you a Sugar Mountain guy, or where'd you go?
I actually worked at App Ski Mountain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I worked there for three winters. I was in college for 5 years. I took a victory lap. I was enjoying myself a little too much.
You were snowboarding.
Yeah, I was snowboarding, fraternity, focusing on all the fun stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I worked at App Ski Mountain, did snowboarding. It was obviously nice to get out to beach and sugar and all that kind of stuff, but I was a little bit more of a terrain rat kind of guy. I'd like to hit the boxes and the jumps and that fun stuff that I definitely couldn't pull off anymore.
Yeah, totally. Did you hear? Well, what is today? Today's Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
So yesterday, my episode with UC Oxenden came out. I don't know if you know who that is.
Oh, no. I saw the newsletter, but I haven't listened to the episode yet.
So UC was like one of my favorite pro snowboarders growing up. Like, well, he and I are basically the same age. So it's weird now because like I didn't realize how old a lot of those guys were back then.
Yeah.
When I was like buying every snowboarding DVD known to man.
Yeah.
Because when you're in Raleigh, it's like that's all you've got, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're super wealthy and you're flying to Colorado once a month or something to go to Breckenridge or Aspen. which we weren't, and none of my family are skiers or snowboarders. I was the only one. But yeah, that episode came out yesterday, and it's really crazy. So there's a line in the episode that I'll say that I've heard a lot, and it's basically that every pro snowboarder comes to Encinitas, California to die. So they all retire and they end up here. So UC and I talked a little bit about that. But anyway, I
Nice.
know from time to time you'll listen to the show, so that's just one that I
Yes.
think maybe you'll be interested in.
I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, he's the best. He's super nice, super great. He's from Finland originally, and if you ever saw any of those old videos by a production company called Robot Food, I don't know if you ever remember that. It was like After Bang, Lame, and After Lame were the three videos. Anyway, those were my favorite videos. So I digress to some degree. What were the boards you were riding? Were you a Burton guy, Never Summer, LibTech?
I had a nitro board
Okay, cool.
with Burton bindings and DC boots were. That was like my main ride. I'm definitely, we have a common buddy, John, who is ex Burton rep. I mean, he has boards I think that probably could line my entire office, but
He does.
yeah, I was never yeah, I was never that level.
Maybe
yeah,
your
I was
primary bedroom also. Like it would cover,
exactly.
yeah, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, he's got more boards than I know anybody to have, frankly.
And still collecting.
When were you last snowboarding?
Ooh. It has probably been 8, 9 years at this
Oh
point.
wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. When my wife got pregnant, after my first daughter was born, we moved from Winston-Salem to Raleigh. But when we lived in Winston, it was an hour and a half to the slopes.
Yep.
I could get done with work, and I had a couple buddies that we would literally pack up, have our snowboards on the roof, ready to roll. As soon as work got out, we were heading towards the mountains. Absky Mountain had a night shift. They had a night run that I think started at 6 p.m. and went to 10, and then on Fridays we'd even go to midnight. So, we could be on the road probably like 4:30, bug out just a little bit early, and we'd be there by like 7, grab some food on the way in, and we'd be able to snowboard for, a solid 4 hours until our legs gave out because we were getting soft at that point.
Wow.
And yeah, so we enjoyed ourselves, and then sometimes we'd drive back home and get home at 3 a.m. or we'd all grab one hotel room and just slum it for a night and potentially hit the slopes again before heading home. But anyway, that was like, that was prime time after we graduated, and then after my kid was born, that kind of dried up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand for sure. One of my best friends moved to Utah. I guess it was 2 or 3 years ago now. And so I'm a little spoiled by that, where I can like just jump on a flight. It's pretty short, stay with him, and then we'll just drive up to Brighton or whatever. And
I'm sad that I never got a chance. I've never skied out west.
really,
Yes, my whole experience has been the ice coast for
Ice Coast.
for as long as I can remember. Whether that was West Virginia, going up to Winter Place, Wintergreen, or everything in North Carolina.
Right.
In college, I wish I had done it. Now I feel like I am too fat and out of shape that I would not be able to the calves wouldn't hold up like they used to. But yeah, that was one of my biggest regrets, is never heading out west and trying legitimate powder instead of the man-made groomers that I'm used to.
So something I don't think I've ever said on the show before was that when I was in college, I went to NC State, as you know, I think, but there was a ski and snowboarding team.
Was it really?
Now, what that meant is you sign up and you're on the team. Really, it was just a function. I think it was so that we could like orchestrate trips through the university somehow. I don't even remember. I don't even think I paid a dime to do it. I think it was just like they just called it, or maybe it was just a club. It was like a ski and snowboard club, maybe. And so they do a trip every spring break. So that's what I didn't go to Cancun. I didn't go to, Miami or anywhere in Florida. Like I went snowboarding every year in college. So
That's
we did
awesome.
Killington, Vermont, Ice Coast, freshman year. We did Crested Butte, Colorado, sophomore, Jackson Hole, junior year. And then senior year, we went to Whistler.
Oh man,
So I mean, it was epic. And
that's
like,
awesome.
quite frankly, I haven't been to any of those since I went to those. But I've been going to other mountains and stuff throughout the years anyway. But I'll skip a few years and such. Like I didn't ride at all this year, which is almost tragic because like Mammoth for like the last 2 years has been killer.
Yeah,
Like
you
maybe
guys
even
have
the
been
last
dumped
3.
on.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so expensive. And even if you're driving up, like hotels are pricey. I mean, you're easily $700 to $1,000 for a weekend. And it's
Yeah,
just like, it's a lot, you know?
yeah.
And my wife doesn't ski or snowboard. So
Mm,
there's not much motivation there. And I would have to have, the right sort of system to make that happen.
yeah. Yep. I understand that. Yeah, my girls are getting to the age now where they may start entertaining the idea of it. So
Yeah.
now it becoming a family thing, I'm starting to get back to the point in my life where I can start reintroducing that, which would be kind of fun. So my wife did skiing while we were at Appskate, and I took snowboarding as my elective for 2 semesters, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then obviously working there, I was able to basically, if I was not working, I could go ski whenever I wanted to. They would obviously call in and check to make sure that they didn't need any extra hands. So there was you're potentially rolling the dice of showing up ready to ski, and they said, "Oh, we're short staffed. You got to go work." But for the most part, I could get up there as much as I wanted. As long as I had gas money to get there, I was good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah,
But you're a golfer as well.
I am.
When
Yeah,
did you pick up golf?
I want to say it was around middle school. My mom really she wanted me to take lessons, and so she signed me up for lessons at Knights Play here in Cary. And so I took lessons for a number of summers. Really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, didn't pursue it. I'm kicking myself that I didn't like try to pursue it in high school or something.
Yeah.
But then in college, golfed with my buddies, and then I want to say I got serious again 2015 to 2016, that time frame.
Sure.
I realized I'd missed it and I wanted to get back into it, so bought myself a whole set of new clubs, went all out went to the nines, and we were also pre-kids, so my wife was horseback riding and I'd go golfing every single night. She'd be riding, and we'd meet up for dinner later on. But it was yeah. So I don't get to play as much as I used to now. My oldest daughter, she's 7. She now wants to come with me, which is a lot of fun.
Oh, great.
Definitely changes the pace of the game, but
Sure.
yeah, I enjoy it.
So are you playing with that same set from 2016 or whatever?
I am. For the irons have stayed the same. The drivers have changed a little bit. The putters have changed a little bit. I know we talked a little bit on our last call about Scotty. So I've got myself a Golo 3.
Cool. Yeah.
That's I love that head shape. It probably is a little bit more toe flow than I need. It's a little bit more loosey goosey. I'm a little bit more of a rhythmic. Could probably stand to have a little bit more square. But I just love that head shape. I like looking down at it when I'm putting. So
Nice. Well, I mean, that'll instill confidence to a certain degree just by looks, you know what I mean? If you don't
Yeah.
like what you're looking down at. I mean, that's the same thing with my irons. Like
yep.
if I don't like what I'm looking down at, I just can't even hit it. So what
Yep.
irons are you playing?
I'm playing a set of tailor-made SLDRs.
Okay.
So cavity back, a little bit more forgiving, but it does have a nice profile, I think. It's kind of got that. It's a mix between a nice high chrome polish and then some matte face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit. I've been gaming it for close to 10 years now. I probably could look to get another set, but it's still doing well for me. It's not, my game's not really warranting a new set of irons at the moment.
Well, I mean, the thing I guess some people don't realize and or they forget or they just don't care is that if you're not hitting them, they will last years. It's
Yeah.
because the grooves wear out as to why, like you normally, unless you're going to, so I actually came across somewhat of, maybe not an anomaly, but so I had a set of clubs at 2015 or whatever, and I used those for like 8 years. And finally last year I got a new set of clubs. And it was almost entirely predicated on the fact that like I realized I needed different shafts. And so it was like if you're going to reshaft all your clubs, you almost should just buy a new set. It's almost the
Yeah.
same price. So that's what I did. And then I shipped all my old clubs back to North Carolina. So my old set's actually at my parents' house.
Oh, perfect. So then
So
you
now
have,
I don't have
something
to-
you're used to gaming.
And I don't have to travel with clubs and, one more bag to check or a bag to check.
Yep.
So that works. What driver do you have right now?
I have a TaylorMade. I think it's an R7. I switched between my R7 and my SLDR. That's the one that I'm looking to update
Yeah, you
currently.
should. Yeah,
Yeah.
the R7's, yeah, it's
Yeah.
long in the tooth.
It is long in the tooth, but honestly, the SLDR, like when I hit it on the sweet spot, that thing can fly.
Sure.
But that just a little, there's a little too much variability in that where if I'm a little off, then, I'm duck hooking it or I'm putting it so far into the woods or the water. The R7 I just have found more consistent, so it depends on my confidence at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm playing well, if I'm feeling good about it, then I'm playing the SLDR. If I'm not, then I'm probably pulling out the R7, which is a little bit more steady. It's a little lower flight. I think it's maybe a 9 degree. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's a little bit more consistent. So, yeah, I got options, but I do think that I need. That's probably the technology that's changed the most that I would benefit from if I was to replace it or update it.
100%. There's no doubt about it. And this new stuff will blow your hair back. Like,
Oh, I'm sure.
it's pretty good. Like, even just like the 8 years from me changing it up, it was just like, oh my God. I mean, even just like the acoustics are
Oh,
like,
yeah.
quite different, you know? And I just love the new stuff, like personally. Like, and it's not about it being new. It's about it being different. And I like it
Yeah.
better.
The new TaylorMades with the ceramic faces, I can't get behind those. Just from a looks perspective, I do not like the way those look.
I'm with you.
It doesn't look right.
I'm such a Titleist whore, so it's
Yeah.
just, I mean, I can't help myself. But
Yeah.
it's just the best looking stuff, and it actually, and I'll be honest, like when I actually went to a driver fitting my last time when I was like thinking about this stuff, because I didn't want to feel like a Titleist whore. I was like, all right, let
Yes.
me go out and like play, or at least practice or hit or whatever, try out some new stuff. And I hit the Titleist stuff better. And I think some of it, frankly, comes down to liking what I look at.
I think you're right. And you're right. I think Titleist is probably the prettiest and design-wise, just the classiest looking stuff. When I was looking at irons, before I realized there's no real need for me to update my irons, I was looking at some of, I think it was the AP2s or maybe even the AP3s. And like even just for Giving Club, for like a player improvement club, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then some of these other
2016
ones
would have been AP2.
Yeah, okay. And I can't remember what they have nowadays, but yeah, it's incredible how classy they look. And then you look at, not to throw shade at Ping, but like the Ping Q40 or whatever the number is, they're kind of like Frankenstein's monster. They're a little hideous with like nuts and bolts, and I'm sure they probably make you game real good.
Yeah.
But God, are they ugly?
Yeah. I mean, the good news is hopefully you're not looking at the cavity back at a dress.
Yeah, I hope not.
Otherwise, you got major issues. But
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I know what you're saying. But yeah, it is just like even that top line, like from my clubs to even through the Titleist range, is like they've done such a nice job of keeping that top line rather fairly slim, so it doesn't get too chunky monkey to where you're like feeling like you're hitting it with a brick. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, before people like literally hit stop on this podcast because they're not obsessed.
I didn't know
with
this was
golf.
a golf podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when did you come up with the idea for Bad Art Nice Watch?
So,
Like, how old is it?
it'll be 3 years in October.
Okay. So I was on it early days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll take you back a little bit. So I mentioned that art was not kind of like a big forefront of my life, but I had always done it. And the one kind of constant from all the years was I would always draw on people's cards for their birthday. Like, like a birthday card, greeting card, whatever. I would always draw on the envelope. I was never satisfied with just writing someone's name. Sorry about my dog.
That's fine.
Never satisfied with just writing someone's name like Bomb. So I'd always have to do a block letter and do something with it. And then that kind of just evolved over time where whatever the theme was, then I would turn that into something else.
Yeah.
And so for years, I have always kind of doodled on all my friends and family's birthday cards. And so I've always kind of kept this creative bent. I was my t-shirt chair in college for several fraternities. I was also trying to think of some of the other stuff that I've done, but I've always had like a creative idea. Like it has to be some kind of creative outlet, whether it's music, photography, art, something.
Sure.
it was about 3 years ago. My oldest daughter, she was 4 at the time. We were sitting down at the kitchen table. She loves to draw. And she's like, Dad, would you draw with me? It's like, absolutely. She's like, draw whatever you want. So I was like, of course, we're playing with markers. I'm going to draw a watch.
Right.
And so I drew a watch and I was like, this is kind of fun. I forgot how, sometimes you just forget, like you kind of get in adult mode and you forget to kind of play like a kid.
Yeah.
And so I was just doodling and having fun. And I had started a photography, like a watch photography, just like everybody else. And I was getting really frustrated with what I could put out there. Like you see some of these people and they are just masters of their craft. Like
Yeah.
the lighting and the product placement and like all the contraptions that they have to make these. I mean, they are billboard quality photos that people are taking. Mm-hmm. And I was not getting anywhere near that. I also was not willing to shell out the thousands of dollars for the rigs that they have.
Totally.
And so anyway, I had that. I was a little frustrated, barely posted. And then after doing this, I was like, well, this might be kind of a fun creative outlet. Like my day job is not a very creative thing. So having something to do would be kind of nice. Yeah. And so I started posting my doodles, and then I started getting into watercolor because I wanted to try watercolor. I'd never done it before.
Oh, wow.
Other than like like the kids' craft kits or whatever. I started doing that, and it kind of just took off. So it was really my daughter who was the inspiration behind all of that. That's why I have a whole section kind of dedicated to her watch art that she'll send me every once in a while. So yeah.
Well, it's funny because I remember either leaving a comment on one of your drawings or art pieces, or I DM'd you or texted you. I can't remember, but I remember distinctly, like not too long ago, being like, in not such a short amount of time, or not in such a long time, like you're gonna have to rename your thing where it's like good art, nice watch, like you've gotten better, visibly better, like it's like noticeable.
Well,
and that's not a knock at your old stuff. It's just like you're not using rulers and stuff. Like you're doing it freehand, right?
Yeah.
And so like, and I know self-deprecating, I'm sure on a certain level that it like, hey, this is not good, but
yeah,
there's like a wabi-sabi element to it, right?
100%.
And which I appreciate, and clearly a lot of other people do too, because it's going to inherently look nothing like another drawing, right? Like,
yep.
I'm very good friends with Julie Crowless, which you may or may not like. Her stuff is insane, like photorealism, unreal graphite. Yours is completely antithetical to that, and on purpose, mind you.
Yes.
And I love that, and I think a lot of people really, really enjoy it. For if no other reason, it sort of transports themselves back to the fun you had as a kid, and I think that's really, really cool that you do it that way. How do you find your clients? Just Instagram or?
Yeah, it's mostly Instagram or my website. That I have to give a huge thanks to everyone who has ever commissioned anything.
Sure.
I started this for fun. I did it for me. I thought, I was enjoying myself, so I was making it on a regular basis. But I want to say, and this just blows my mind still to this day. Within a week of me posting, I had someone message me saying they wanted to buy something. I literally ran downstairs and I showed my wife the DM and I was laughing out loud. Like, can you believe this? Someone wants to buy this.
Right.
If it hadn't been for that, I'm not really sure how long that this endeavor would have continued. I've probably drawn close to 350, 400 pieces at this point.
Wow.
And it is almost all of it has been driven through Instagram.
So that's like one every 3 days. You doing like two
just
a
about.
week?
Yeah, just about.
Wow.
So, I mean, the crazy thing is I kind of went overboard and killed myself the very first year because I was, the train was coming and I saw it and I just tried to grab on and hold on for dear life. The very first year, so I started posting October 27th, I want to say. Mm-hmm. It was also just a perfect timing. I had a lot of help from, I think one of the good things for me is I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I feel like I have understood marketing and understanding what people want out of this account. And just interacting with people who have more influence than I do. So like, for instance, I was just tagging Bryn Wallner in a dime piece for anyone who doesn't know. I tagged her early on in a piece that I did of a Cartier tank. And she loved it. She reposted it. She even put it on her profile. Like, she reposted it
grid.
as an actual post. Yeah, on the grid. And this one, she probably had maybe 15,000 followers. And I kid you not, overnight, I went from having maybe 100 followers to probably 700 followers in like a very short amount of time.
Wow.
Which really introduced me to a lot of people. And those types of interactions like really helped me grow and, change the account into what it is. So yeah, a lot of people have just messaged me and reached out over the years of just wanting to commission something. But that first year, from that, probably when Brent started posting it to December, I made 92 pieces in a span of like less than 2 months.
Wow.
And a lot of it was just Christmas and Hanukkah. People wanted to get gifts out, and I was like, I'm gonna try to do as many as I can because this is probably gonna dry up, come January. It's continued on, which is fascinating to me. But yeah.
How much are the pieces?
I've recently have added in a second size. So traditionally, if you've seen my stuff, it's a 5x7.
Right.
That costs $200. For timing purposes, this is June 12th, 2024. Don't hold me to that. It might be different by the time you listen to this. But then the larger size, which is a 10x14, is 500. That's a much larger size. I've done a couple of those at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Takes more materials, more time, kind of worth the cost in my opinion. Get a little bit more detail. Actually, a lot more detail.
I was about to say you get more detail with that for sure.
Yeah, you really do.
That's great. Did you ever, rewinding back to like the birthday card era,
Yeah.
were you ever having people say like the envelope's better than the card you gave me? That kind of
100%.
thing? Yeah. Okay.
I have family and friends who have thrown away the card, but they keep the envelope.
That's rad. Yeah, I love that. Also, little known fact, don't think I've ever talked about this before. Not that this is about me, but I used to have a greeting card business.
Did you really?
Yeah.
We should have collaborated. You did the card, I did the envelope.
Extremely short-lived.
Yeah.
But it's called From Men with Manners.
Oh, okay.
And it was just about the art of writing a thank you note.
Oh, that's funny enough because I have a number of all of the, I can't remember, the Brooks Brothers Manners books. And
I forgot about those.
They're all setting up. Yeah, they're all setting up there. But I have the one about, proper etiquette for letter writing, response cards, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, where do you sit on that? Because I still write. I mean, honestly, what's funny is like I write a handwritten thank you note with every package that goes out. And I would say the feedback I get is probably 50-50. It's either product related or it's thank you note related or both. It's just amazing, like, obviously how few businesses actually have any version of a personal touch to them. And if you're dealing with businesses like yours and mine, like clearly yours has a very personal touch because you created it by hand. I don't actually sew my products, or knit the fabric for that matter. So yeah, I mean, it's just that level of appreciation that I think is it's borderline obvious to somebody like me, but I also grew up doing that. Like I would write my grandparents thank you notes for their Christmas presents, and things like that. Like my parents would tell me to write thank you notes. When I worked at Sullivan's Steakhouse in downtown Raleigh as a waiter, we would write our dining guests thank you notes for coming in and inviting them back. And like, look, you were a hospitality major. I don't have to preach to you about what hospitality is in the truest form. And that's really where it comes from, having worked at a hotel as well in college. And so it's super important to me. And I love that personal touch. And clearly so did the folks that received your greeting cards.
Yeah. And no, I 100% agree with you. I write thank you notes for every gift that I receive as well. My mom instilled that in me. My wife grew up the same way. So like we had our wedding thank yous done within a week. No 1 year, whatever. And I really agree in the personal touch thing too. It's funny because I talked to my wife about, for everything that I send out. So if you were to order a commission from me, I'm obviously hand painting it. We're going to talk about what you want the watch to be. Do you want it to be a head only? Do you want it to be on the strap? Yep. Where do you want the hour hand to be pointed to? The minute hand, the seconds, the date. we can make it whatever customized you want it, whether it's a birthday we're celebrating or you're pointing towards a kid's birth or a wedding anniversary, whatever. There's a lot of personal touch there. But when I finish a piece, I always pack it the same way. I have a backing board that's, bad art of a nice, and then whatever your watch is, include a sticker in it, everything. And, I've had people say, like, why do you include all that other stuff? Like, they're already buying the art. Like, you don't have to throw in all this other stuff. And honestly, I think you and I are very much the same on this. It's what I want. If I had bought this is what I'd want. I have an obsession with stickers. So of course I had to make my own stickers. Once I had my own brand, I made my own stickers. And I want everyone else to experience and share in that.
Sure.
So I will include a sticker with that. And then also it was a little bit tongue in cheek of, bad art, nice watch. This is the brand, but this is a bad art of whatever you had, what your commission is. And so I wanted to include that, and it's been really fun and funny. This is really something that I include so that the post office doesn't bend your art. It's just a backing board so that it protects the art for travel.
Sure.
But I have seen a number of people who have ended up framing it in a side-by-side of bad art, nice watch of X watch, and then you have the watch sitting next to it in a 2-picture frame.
Right.
Which cracks me up.
That's
it cracks
great.
me up.
That's so great. That's amazing, man. And how fortunate to be that somebody is just not only just supporting you, but like,
Yeah.
it is legitimately enthusiastic about what you're doing to the point where they're also, I'm sure, posting it online and sharing your, handle and things like that so that people can find you. It's just, look, I'm preaching to the choir here. I mean, it's humbling to say the least, and also it's just like we wouldn't be doing this without people like that, I guess.
100%. 100%.
No, man, that's fantastic. What's a watch that you haven't? Okay, let me interrupt myself. I'm good at that. Are most of the pieces you're doing now commissions, or do you make time to do things that people haven't asked for?
It's funny. The lino cuts are something that I've wanted to do. So this is a me project. So if you've seen me post the lino cut, I'm trying to squeeze those in between commissions. That's for me. Almost everything, and I mean that genuinely, has been a commission. There's been a handful of pieces, and it's usually around a release of a watch, me trying to catch the hype train, like when the Mood Swatch first came out, or the Pelagos first came out. I try to create a piece of art just to like, oh, Hodinky's posting it, let me also try to post in it. Maybe someone will share a story or something.
Piaget.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the polo.
I have not done the polo yet. Okay. But yeah, no. So it's almost, I would say, probably 95% commission, and then maybe 5% for me.
Now that's all paid up front, or is
Yes.
it a deposit plus? Okay.
It's all paid up front. Obviously, prices have changed over the years, but it's all paid up front. This secures your spot. No favoritism. I don't care if you're Hodinky or if you're, Joe Schmo off the street.
Yeah.
When you pay me, you secure your spot, and I just go in order.
So what's the lead time right now?
I give myself about 6 weeks just because of life.
Yeah.
It probably only takes me an hour and a half to actually produce something start to finish. I think a lot of why I enjoy the art that I do, like I look at Julie and I look at Thomas Fair, Dark Side of the Watch, Cecilia. There's so many who do photorealism charcoal pieces, and it blows my mind. My mind cannot comprehend creating something that photorealistic. Mm-hmm. But I also know that they spend 40 to 80 to 100 plus hours on these pieces.
Yeah.
And I can't commit to that. Like, being able to have a start and a finish in a single sitting is huge for me from a creative perspective. Like, I sometimes will lack the motivation to pick something back up if I've started it and I haven't finished it. So being able to do something start to finish is also a big component of it. But yeah, so anyway, it takes me about an hour and a half to finish it. But then obviously, I think what people don't realize is social media is such a drain. It's such a time suck. If I could make art and have commissions come in without having to do social media, I know that's the primary way that I share my art, I would be so happy, because editing the reel together takes 30 minutes to an hour. On top of getting the post set up and scheduled, that probably takes another 30 minutes, getting your hashtags, your tags,
Yep.
getting everything all set up. Then once it goes live, then you have to share with the stories, Then you have to interact with all the comments for probably the first 15 to 30 minutes to make sure that you're hitting the algorithms, all that fun stuff. And then I break my posts up just to try to keep as much content as possible. I do a reel first, and then I'll do the photos second. So then you have to do the whole thing, a whole rigmarole all over again for just the carousel and the reels. So I hate that part. So anyway, the social media part takes so much more of the actual commission, if you consider it that way.
Well, I mean, here's where I'm jealous, is that you have that. Like, I can't do a time lapse of a t-shirt being made, every t-shirt that's being made, that's ordered.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, like,
Yeah.
I will say I completely understand why it is a complete pain in the ass, because social media, I think I've said it 10 times if I've said it once. Like, if I didn't have my brand, I would not be on social media. Like,
Yeah.
I have a personal account, but it's like private. I never post to it. People request me. I delete it. I'm not trying to be on here more. Is my point. So if you tried to friend request my personal account and I didn't accept, I probably haven't A, seen it, and B, won't look at it. So
Same.
So anyway, Grail watch in the collection.
Yes. So I have I'm very content with my collection.
That's great.
Part of it is I have a real problem with pieces sitting in a collection that aren't worn.
Yeah, you want to wear them.
My ideal size is probably 4 to 5 watches. And so I have the first Grail watch that I bought was when I turned 30. I bought myself an Omega Speedmaster.
Sweet.
I think I can't remember if we mentioned on the podcast where we were talking. My grandparents lived in San Diego. My mom grew up there. My dad worked for Convair, which was a subdivision of General Dynamic. He worked on rockets for NASA through Convair. So I've had a loose connection to NASA. I have like he was an aeronautical engineer, so I have a lot of his schematics and drawings and awards and medals and stuff that he won.
That's awesome.
And so I knew that I was always going to have a Speedmaster just because of the family connection to NASA, even how limited and tangential it is. Mm-hmm. So I bought myself that when I turned 30. One of my first big boy watch. We were going to start trying for kids. I knew funds were going to dry up. So that was the watch that I had for a very long time.
Which one did you get? Is it Sapphire Sandwich? Is it?
No, I had to go Hesselite.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But because I am me and I'm particular, I was fortunate enough. I don't know if you can see it. I have a Pulsations bezel on it.
Oh, sick. Did you
I have some good
retrofit
friends.
it?
I did.
Okay, cool.
If anyone who doesn't know, Speedies have a very easy bezel to pop off. The whole thing, you just put a poker chip in it, hit it at the back of the poker chip, and it pops right off. I have good friends who were able to help me source a Pulsations bezel. I also have a 57 Broad Arrow reissue, the completely stainless steel bezel that also fits on here. So whatever my mood strikes, I will change this up.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know anybody else that does that.
Yeah. So I had that for a long time, but the other watch that was competing for that spot was a Rolex Explorer 2 Polar Dial. And at the time, we're talking 2016, the Speedy was like probably 3,500. The Polar was about 4,200. And I got impatient. I got a really good deal on the Speedy for probably about 31. I was already maxed out at that point. I'd never spent that much money on a watch. And so I went ahead and pulled the trigger on the Speedy. And then I thought to myself, oh, well, I'll just start saving up again for the Polar. The Polar just kept climbing in price and just got to the point where I couldn't justify it. But literally in January, I sold my IWC, sold a lot of other things, and was able to pull in a Polar. So I got a 1997 Polar Explorer Tritium dial. This is what I really wanted. Holes case. And it has been on my wrist ever since. I have been wearing this thing. Oh, you can't see that. I've been wearing this thing nonstop.
So this has the, forgive me for the reference number, but it is the red GMT hand.
Correct. Yep.
Polar. Yeah. My dad's got that watch.
1650.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, my dad bought his from Crown and Caliber, of all people, like very early.
Smart man.
got a good deal on his, and he loves it. It's great.
That's a good watch. That's a really good watch.
But the Polar, that's one of I think that one's my favorite Explorer 2, the one you have.
Yeah. Agreed. I think the new one, I like the new one. I think from a materials perspective, it makes a lot of sense. It's a really rugged outdoor watch, but proportions wise, it just doesn't work as well.
Shout out Adrian Barker for shattering your crystal, though.
That was painful to watch.
So sorry, buddy.
That was really painful to watch.
Oh man, that's crazy.
One other watch I want to share with you, Wes, because I think you appreciate this.
Yeah, shoot.
Another watch, another Grail. I use that loosely, right?
Okay.
Another watch that I was able to attain, I want to say it was 2022, was a watch that I was familiar with but didn't know the full backstory of. Give me a minute here just to kind of go backwards in time for a split second.
Floor is yours, my man. This is what we're here for.
So when I got my Fossil Blue watch in middle school, for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, they were all the rage. Fossil was everywhere. They had these collectible Americana tin cans. If you were in middle school at this time, if you didn't have a Fossil Blue watch, you were a nerd. You had to have one. So I remember distinctly that there was a yellow dial version of a Fossil Blue watch. I ended up getting a silver dial with blue sub-registers, but I really wanted the yellow dial with blue sub-registers. I don't know why the yellow was attractive to me. Whatever, it was a very formative thing in my brain.
Yeah.
Fast forward years later, I'm in college and I see Gordon Ramsay on Kitchen Nightmares, and he has a yellow dial chronograph that I'm like, whoa, what is that? Like my Fossil Blue watch? What is that? Like, it is very easy to spot on TV, even with the low quality cameras that we had, at that time, late 90s, early 2000s.
Not 8K.
Correct. Not 8K. Fast forward a little bit more. I'm into watches. I'm doing research. I realize it's a Breitling. Don't know the reference, but I know that it's a Breitling. I know he's a Breitling guy on top of being a Rolex guy and everything else. And I finally find the reference through a guy on Instagram and start tracking it. Little do I know that this reference is incredibly hard to find. At least the yellow dial. The watch itself, very easy to find, but the yellow dial, very hard to find.
Really?
I had feelers out there for well over a year. And I thought maybe I was never going to get it, because when I finally talked to him, I was like, how long did you look for? And he was like, I looked for probably a year and a half, and I paid about 8K for mine. And I was like, well, I'm not paying 8K for, some 90s level Breitling that's probably in not great condition. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay. So anyway, I had the feelers out. I was looking for it, and I thought maybe I'll find one that I can afford. Probably not. I'll try to do my best. If I find one, I'll put it on a credit card, and I'll figure out a way to buy it later. I was very fortunate that a buddy of mine was messaging me. He said, hey, I'm really looking for like a 90s chronograph. Do you have any ideas? And I was like, hey, you should check out a Breitling Chrono Cockpit. They're really cool. They're a little smaller size. It's a 37 millimeter, but it's I can't remember what the movement is, but it's a pretty inoffensive, and they're cheap. They're like maybe $1,200. You can find them all the time. And so I go to eBay to pull up a listing just to show him an example of one. And sure enough, as soon as I pull it up, a yellow dial Breitling Chrono Cockpit shows up. It had just been listed. And on top of that, the dude didn't know what he had, and he had it listed for $1,700. I can't tell you how fast I clicked buy now. I checked, I bought it, cleared everything. I'm checking my email probably every 30 seconds just to make sure like the listing actually closed and the payment went through and everything else.
Yeah.
I finally got it, and it's just like closing a loop from my childhood.
Oh, dude,
so
and there's something so unmistakable about the design language within Breitling, and namely the bracelet.
Yes.
It's like not beads of rice. It's not Jubilee. It's always got that sort of angle to it. It's the second you held it up, it wasn't even in focus, and I could tell. Like, yeah, that's a Breitling bracelet. Like, period.
Yeah.
That is killer.
So it's got the professional bracelet. I actually had to find this secondhand. The rider tabs, another classic feature of a Breitling bezel. Doesn't keep the excellent time. I've got a good buddy, Kyle, at Bailey's, who has done a good job trying to keep it ticking. It probably really needs to go back to Breitling for a full service. But this thing has been, I can't tell you how excited or how happy it makes me. Like, even though it was not that expensive, $1,700 is expensive for some people. It's not much in terms of watches in general, but this one is probably worth way more to me personally, and I don't know why, but whether it's my childhood or the hunt or whatever.
It's everything.
It is everything. It is everything.
And you know what? I would argue that that watch, like I told you, the Polar is my favorite variant that you own. And the Speedy's a Speedy. What more can you say? Strap monster, timeless design. It's going to look incredible forever. But that watch, when you're 65 years old, 75 years old, and wearing that, people are going to be like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Not,
and even
not
now,
because it's not the other things, it's because it is what it is. You know what I
yes.
mean? Like, it is its own thing. And there's nothing more than I love than seeing like an older gentleman with a really old watch. Now, I don't mean Big Crown Submariner, like, $100,000. It could be anything. But
Yeah.
if you know that that guy has had that watch for no less than 20 to 40 to 50 years, and I have got this great shot from my honeymoon in Italy of this old man that I call him old man now. I mean, I don't know. He was probably pushing 80. And
Okay.
he was just reading a newspaper on a sofa in this like store or something. I don't know. And he had like this really old tank. It made actually I don't even know if it were a tank. I think it was I actually think it was more along the design language of a Panther.
Mm-hmm.
But he had it it was really small, two-tone, but the dial was incredibly patinaed.
Mm.
And I'll send you the photo if I can find it. I think I
Yeah,
have
please
it on
do.
my phone. I'll text it to you. But it was just like that guy looks, and of course he's Italian, so of course he's going to look cool because Italians
Spezzatura.
always, yeah, exactly. But like, that's going to be you, man. Like in 20 years from now, you're going to look so freaking cool wearing that watch.
I don't know. Another thought that I have now too is the watches that I want to pass down to my girls.
Totally.
And so the fact that it is only 37 millimeters also is really my sweet spot's probably anywhere from 42 to 37 is probably pushing it a little bit on the small side for me.
Okay.
But even still, I love the fact that, or the idea of being able to pass something down that they'd actually want to wear.
Sure.
And I think another reason that I like small collections, beyond the fact of I don't like seeing watches languish in my watch box. Mm-hmm. And I don't really like having like, oh, this is my this watch, this is my that watch. Mm-hmm. I don't really love the idea of that. But I like the idea of my girls being like, that's dad's yellow watch. I remember him wearing this on our vacations. I remember him doing that and them wanting this because of those memories associated to it. So that's what I'm hoping to imbue in my pieces is the memory that my girls then want that watch for that purpose.
That's great, man. And I think nothing's cooler than a woman wearing a chronograph, personally. I
Oh,
just think
yeah.
that's just cool.
For her, yeah, for sure.
Do you have a Grail golf course? You're wearing the 124th U.S. Open at Pinehurst hat. You were there this week. I'm super jealous. I was supposed to go back. My parents and my brother, everybody's going on Saturday. I'm going to miss it.
Yeah.
How was Pinehurst this week? What was the energy like? And what's your Grail golf course to play?
Those are excellent questions. First off, Pinehurst looked number 2 looked gorgeous. The fairways looked immaculate. The greens looked amazing. They were rolling so fast. Watching the pros just land it was incredible. I got to we were sitting up in the grandstands on 12 for a minute and watched Scotty play through. He landed it. He made a straight up birdie. And then, obviously, once they hold out, they're kind of, playing around the greens, chipping and stuff. And his caddy threw down several tees for just, like, aim spots. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, the dude was dialed in. He was knocking him, whether it was a chip or a putt, within 3 inches of the tee every single time. Dude was just killing it. So I would not be surprised to see him go very far in the tournament this weekend. Yeah, it's tough because I think there's a lot of courses that I would love to play, but I also fully recognize I'm not a good golfer. I enjoy playing golf, but I am a very high handicap. And so I think that there is a lot of courses that I would, on paper, really like to play, but would frustrate the hell out of me if I actually got on the course.
I see.
So like even in North Carolina, I would love to play number 2, obviously. Never played it. Actually, I've never played any of the courses at Pinehurst. Would love to play number 2, would love to play number 4. Would love to play Pine Needles. would love to play Tobacco Road. I've never done Tobacco Road.
That's like top 3 or 4 for me.
Yeah. Having played or want to play?
No, I've played it.
You liked it?
I played it with my dad, and I was like, this is like, it's so different.
Yeah.
It's the reason some love it, or is the same reason other people hate it, and it's the epitome of target golf, where like it's not this rolling landscape. You know, it's not links golf. It's very much a lot of blind shots, for example. But it's like being on a roller coaster in that sense, and never having ridden it before, because you don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what this drop is going to feel like. It's like riding a roller coaster at night.
Okay.
And you're like, is there a loop or not? Am I upside down? Whoa. Now I'm upside down.
Did you have a caddy when you played it?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I don't. Do they have caddies at Tobacco Road?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't see any that I recall. I know I didn't have one. That's for sure.
I can imagine it being more fun if, like, even though you're playing a blind shot, for having someone be like, look, you want to hit it, you know.
Aim here. Yeah.
Yeah, 170, and then it's going to drop down, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tobacco Road's amazing.
There's a number of courses that I would love to play. I would love to get better before I do them, but yeah, I want to come out and visit you, and we'll go hit up Torrey Pines.
Yeah, we absolutely need to do that for sure.
Yeah.
One and done. We can. I'll make that happen. To 100%. Cameron Smith was in an interview the other day. He's saying that the greens at Pinehurst were maybe the best he's ever played.
Really?
Wow. His words. Yeah. So that's saying something, especially if you've seen them in person and they look good. So
they look really
good.
Yeah.
Amazing, man. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
Cool.
I appreciate you having me back.
Yeah. Well, we'll get you back out here to San Diego, hopefully with your clubs on the airplane as well.
Yeah.
And then, let's catch up again on the podcast, in a few months or something. Check in.
Yeah, we're going to have to do another Wesley pit stop here pretty soon.
Yeah. I think we'll what did I call it? The drive-by?
Drive-by, yeah.
Drive-by
a little longer than a pit stop.
Yeah, drive-by with Bryan. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, you know what we'll have to do? You have to see if you can bring your equipment out. Otherwise, we'll have to find that location. Maybe a little bit more ambiance, but or maybe we talk to Derek and we can do it at Unlikely Professionals before a party kicks off.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
When you come out, let's see if we can get like a little extended in-person, face-to-face.
Yeah.
Something going on.
We could even do a live one.
Ooh, I wonder if we could even film it. You could have something for YouTube.
I don't have film equipment, but if you know people who do, that'd be rad.
We got some people in Red Bar Raleigh who might be able to facilitate that.
Okay. Yeah. Let's pencil it in.
Yeah.
I like that. No, I like that idea. Bryan, thank you, brother.
Awesome. Wesley, thank you for having me back, man.
You got it. We'll chat soon.
Sounds good.
Okay. This wraps up this episode of the Standard Age Podcast. If you like what you heard, I'd love it if you'd share it with a friend or two. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the show, as it helps others discover these episodes. It absolutely helps far more than you realize. Shout out to Jensen Reed and Super Beautiful for the theme track. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.